skills trainer from BCPT Department CO, and today we are going to learn about handling customer complaints and objections. So keeping your clients happy can go a long way to improving your business. Still, no matter how hard you try, you will be faced with customer objections from time to time. You cannot always be a customer. You can also be at the receiving end. So you have to handle those complaints, and that will make the difference in whether you keep them as a customer in the long run or you lose them forever. So having a plan for quickly and effectively managing unhappy customers can make your company more adept at handling complaints and finding a resolution to them that satisfies the customers as well as your business. So to understand what are the objections. Objections, first of all, means responding to a buyer in ways that changes their mind or elevate their concerns. Some reps argue that their prospects or try to pressure them into backing down, but this isn't true objection handling. Prospects typically end up more convinced than ever in their position. Worse, salespeople lose the trust and rapport they've built up. Instead of telling your prospects you're wrong, help them to come to a different conclusion of their own and on their own accord. And if you can't persuade them, that's a good sign they are a poor fit. It's also important to distinguish between sales objections and brush-offs. While objections are authentic, brush-offs are excuses. Think of an objection as I see the value in your product, but I'm not sure about buying it for any other reason, for any X reason. While a brush off translates to I don't want to talk to you, I don't want to talk about it, I am not interested in buying. So objections are far more serious than brush. To understand the handling of customer objections and complaints, first you have to understand about the risks, the objections. So what are the objections? I have categorized the kind of customer objections into 4 parts. First one is the price or the risk. Price, cost, budget, return on investment. All of these concerns fall into this category. Price objections are often really about risks. If the sales representative has justified the cost by building value during the interaction, the customer will be less valuable. So the price risk is of the utmost objection that the customers always face. Quality of service is the second objection. If the customer is concerned about the quality of your product or services, for example, they express doubts about product quality, the training of your personnel, speed or responsiveness of service, compatibility, these are the examples of quality of service concerns, meaning that you are not fully equipped with all of the services that you have promised that you will provide. The third problem that comes is the trust or the relationship. The customer might be concerned with the legitimacy or credibility of you or your company. This indicates that a good relationship has not been established between the salesperson and the client. Means they are not credible, they are not sure that you or your company is credible, that whatever you are offering has a legitimate value. So the relationship building there falls. The fourth problem here is stall. Customers sometimes attempt to stall their decision. The closer the sale is to closing, the more pressure the customer feels. And if there is any remaining conflict or anxiety, they may try to stall. For example, you are ready to buy. You are on the shop. You decide that you have to buy something. The sales representative has talked about every other point or every other thing that comes to close the deal. So now you may stall. You may say that I don't think that my wife will like it. I don't think that I should buy it. I'm low on the money value. So these are the things that the customers do. They tend to stall. So these are the 4 objections that the personnel face. That is price or risk. Second is quality of service. Then there's trust or relationship. The fourth one is stall. So handling objections is that if you have anticipated and prepared for the 4 types of objections, you won't panic when an objection comes up. Remember that the customer is having quite normally for anyone about to take a risk and make a purchase. The customer is uncertain about making a change and he needs reassurance. The best course of action is to direct their focus back to the larger context in which the purchase is being made. Recapitulating the clear and logical reason to buy with help stabilize the customer's emotion. Your response to an objection can be an attempt to reframe the objection as that the customer understands the bigger picture. Bring up the benefit to your client and outweighs any deficits to or provide countering evidence or the missing information. So it's all into your hands. You have to make sure that you are telling on all of the benefits to the clients. You are outweighing any deficits or you are providing counter evidence, and there is no false information and no false miscommunication. Everything has to be represented in front of the client in all of the light. Trying to overcome sales objectives, it is imperative you respond appropriately and avoid reacting impulsively to your prospects' objections. So here are some helpful strategies for overcoming objections. The first one is you have to practice active listening. The first and foremost, as your prospect is sharing their concern with you, make sure you are using active listening skills to take in what they are saying. While your prospect discloses their objections, learn and listen to understand, not respond. Avoid interrupting them while they are speaking and give them space to voice the concerns and objections freely. The second point is repeat back what you hear. Once your prospect has stated their objections, repeat back what you heard to ensure you are understanding correctly. Not only this will help clarify their points too for you, but it will also help your prospect feel heard and valued, which is important for building trust. The third point is validate your prospect's concerns. After you have confirmed you understand where your prospect is coming from, continue building trust by empathizing with your prospect and validating their point of view. No, that doesn't mean you have to talk down to on your product or recommend a competitor. It just means you have to acknowledge that their concern is valid and are offering a solution to mitigate their fears. For example, if you are selling automation software and your prospect is worried about their ability to implement your software into their complex system, so you could say, I understand implementing new software can feel like a daunting task. Thankfully, we have an incredible tech team that has experience working with similar organizations and can handle a seamless transition with you. So this means you have to acknowledge their concerns and you have to acknowledge that their concern is valid and then offer a solution to mitigate their fears. Fourth point is ask follow-up questions. When you hear objectives, all you want to do is keep the conversation going in a natural way. If you hear your prospect pulling back, asking follow-up questions can be tactful. Asking follow-up questions can be a tactful way to keep them talking. So don't ask questions that can be answered with a simple yes or no. Make sure you ask open-ended questions that allow your prospect to continue expressing their thoughts on your product. The more information they provide, the more you have to work with to potentially turn the sales around. So here you have to ask follow-up questions and make the questions open-ended. The fifth point is leverage social proof. Depending upon the nature of the prospect concern, sharing the story of another customer who had similar reservations and went on to see success with your product can be a successful approach. If you are in sales, you can share relevant information about your prospects, competitors, and any success they have seen overcoming a similar objection. The sixth point here is to set a specific date and time to follow up. If your prospect asks for more time to think things over, give them the time and space to weigh their options. However, you don't want to leave them hanging. Set up a specific time and date to follow up in the near future so too much time doesn't pass, and offer to answer any questions they have in the meantime as they deliberate. The fifth thing is anticipate sales objections. Ultimately, the two effective strategies for handling sales objections is to anticipate them happening. When you are prepared to have objections come up, you're far less likely to be thrown off your game. So having a set of neutral recommendations ready to offer prospects when objections arise can keep the sales moving. Because you listen to the buyer and explore their rationale rather than giving a knee-jerk response, They are usually willing to hear you out if you have a solution to offer. Keeping a track of objections you receive most often is also helpful. Once you know what to expect, you can devote extra time to practicing and defining your responses. We also recommend sales rep use role plays to boost the objection handling abilities. Take turns with another rep on your team, posing common objections, answering, and then giving each other feedback. Now that you know that objection handling is, why it's important, and how to improve, now the main common objective starts to come into place. So, what should be the sales objective and the pricing and the budget? It depends upon what the company's objections are, what are the company's short term goals and long term goals. You have set your objections, and now you have to answer the questions likewise. The most common objection is that the product is too expensive. Price objections are the most common type of objection, and are they even voiced by prospects who have every intention of buying. So be aware, the moment you start focusing on the price as a selling point, you reduce yourself to a transactional middleman. Instead, circle back to the product's value. It could be rather the prospect's business simply isn't big enough or generating enough cash right now to afford a product like yours. Track their growth and see how you can help your prospect get to a place where your offering would fit into their business. The main identification here comes into light is identify who you are talking to. What is the type of the customer? A few notable personas that will make their way into your inbox. The one can be a meek customer, generally adverse to talking to you. He doesn't want to be burdened you, and he doesn't think you will care either way. It's your responsibility to inquire deeper to get the exact hearing of what exactly is wrong. Then, a type of customer can be aggressive, outspoken, not shy about letting you know what's on their mind. Avoid mirroring their confrontational behavior and instead react with firm politeness that is pleasant but not submissive. Your team needs to be treated with respect too, but try not to be passive or aggressive. Then, a type of customer can be the high roller. Perhaps your enterprise customer who likely pays well and demands premium support for it. While no customer is fond of excuses, this customer disdains hearing them. Setting up a VIP folder is a simple way to cater to the high roller's customers' needs. At the end, I would like to go through what we have already done. The first thing is to make sure in handling the customer care objections and complaints to let them feel heard. Be supportive, use supportive questions, follow up, listen with empathy, try not to be passive or aggressive. The second one is explain how your solution helped others. Give references. Try to be educational in your approach. Tell them how the same solution helped others. Take the opportunity to start a conversation. A light start, a light hand of questions and supportive questions. Acknowledge their problems and address it. Don't try to brush up or don't try to ask ahead of that. Acknowledge what they are trying to say. Ask, don't tell. Ask about their concerns, their objections and complaints, and then after listening to them, give your opinions. Be honest about your product. If you are promising them that your product doesn't do, it will not give you the customer in the longer run. So be honest about what you are representing and what your product actually is. Set the expectations right and follow through. That means whatever you are telling about your product, that has to be right, and the major point here is to follow up because time is the essence. So whenever you are giving them a time span or whenever you are telling them that we'll take the problem into consideration and we'll be there at this date at this hour, so make sure you're following up even after the problem has been solved. If the customer was a high roller customer as we have already discussed, or if the customer was aggressive, make sure that you're following up after every interval of time to make sure that the problems that they have faced are not coming in their routine life regarding your product. So prepare for every kind of conversation, every kind of customer when you are dealing with, and make sure you treat them with utmost respect because that is the thing that will lead your business to heights. The major point here to keep in mind is let them feel heard, time is the essence, follow up and treat them with genuine respect. Thank you.